Tonight for embattled Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard. The law firm representing Henyard and the village of Dalton in a slew of lawsuits is asking to withdraw from those cases. The Delgado Law Group says it's not being paid, so it'll stop appearing in federal and state court and defending Dalton and Henyard in 22 different lawsuits. In a letter to Henyard and trustee
Tiffany Henyard, the mayor of Dalton, shared her vision for change in the village through a Facebook post where she expressed frustration over the recent adjustments to re-election filing dates, alleging they were made to mislead potential candidates. She encouraged residents to run for office, using biblical references, quoting the Epistle to the Romans, and urging supporters to stay focused, as she believes God is working in their favor. Despite her appeal for unity, Henyard's tenure as mayor has been marred by financial challenges and controversy. Under her leadership, Dalton's financial difficulties became a focal point, drawing the attention of former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who in August revealed that the village's general fund was crippled by a $36.5 million deficit. Among the contentious expenditures was over $43,000 spent on Amazon by Henyard in a single day earlier in the year. In response, the village board passed a resolution requesting an FBI investigation into Henyard's spending, but the mayor vetoed the measure, dismissing it as mere posturing by her political opponents. She accused board members of conducting a clandestine meeting to instigate a federal investigation, further alleging that she was being targeted for her status as a Black woman in a position of power. At a February board meeting, she chastised her critics, calling their claims false narratives and urging them to reflect on their attacks on her as a Black woman in leadership. The financial mismanagement of Dalton extended to a standoff with Illinois State Comptroller Susana Mendoza, who withheld offset payments to the village due to Henyard's failure to submit required documentation. Mendoza threatened fines up to $78,600 on top of the $135,000 in offset payments Dalton had been set to receive. Henyard faced mounting opposition at a trustee meeting in September when she attempted to make high-level appointments, including naming a new police chief, village administrator, and village attorney. Residents in attendance interrupted her repeatedly, and she left the meeting after 7 minutes, accusing all trustees present of corruption. A ruling from Cook County Circuit Court Judge Thaddeus Wilson later determined that Henyard had bypassed proper protocol in making these appointments, which the judge declared void. The village trustees had filed a lawsuit to stop these appointments, arguing that the mayor must involve the entire board in such decisions. The court sided with the trustees, deeming the appointees unqualified for their respective roles. The meeting was held in the spacious Lester Long Fieldhouse rather than the Village Hall due to a ruling from the Illinois Attorney General's office, which found that Dalton had violated the state's Open Meetings Act by failing to provide adequate accommodations for residents. This came as trustees and mayoral candidate Jason House, along with his fellow trustees, convened special meetings in the Fieldhouse after being denied access to the Village Hall. At this same meeting, the trustees moved to end the village's costly car leases, including one for the mayor's car, citing the community's dire financial situation. Trustee Kiana Belcher highlighted that Dalton was paying $2,800 monthly for just one vehicle. While the trustees voted to terminate the leases, Henyard's attempts to veto their decisions were rendered ineffective, as they were not included in the official agenda. In the absence of a formal budget, trustees raised concerns that maintaining current spending levels could lead to a shortfall of $2.8 million on top of the existing deficit of over $3.5 million. Despite these challenges, the trustees remained hopeful that a preliminary budget could be developed within a month, with department heads being asked to reduce their spending. Meanwhile, the situation took a dramatic turn when CNN published a report exposing emails from a police ally who had secretly been informing on Henyard. This revelation was accompanied by the arrest of Dalton's police chief, Lewis Lacey, a longtime close associate of Henyard, who now faces a multi-count indictment. Lacey's charges include perjury and bankruptcy fraud, stemming from his alleged efforts to conceal assets and evade payments of over $440,000 related to a lawsuit settlement. The charges carry potential prison sentences of up to 5 years for each count. Appearing in court dressed in a blue suit, the 61-year-old Lacey acknowledged the charges, and his attorney, Gal Petty, entered a not guilty plea on his behalf. Petty also objected to certain conditions imposed by the court, including the surrender of Lacey's service weapon, firearms, and firearm owner's ID card, though he indicated that these restrictions could be reconsidered if they hinder Lacey's duties as a police officer. A status hearing is set for October 1 before U.S. District Judge Thomas Durkin. While the charges are not directly linked to Lacey's role as police chief, they further fuel the ongoing federal investigation into Henyard's administration. This indictment adds another blow to Henyard, who has already faced multiple federal subpoenas this year. Lacey's attorney characterized the charges as part of a broader political effort to discredit both Lacey and Henyard, describing the situation as a witch hunt aimed at tarnishing their reputations. Despite the village trustees placing Lacey on administrative leave, Petty has challenged their authority to do so, insisting that Lacey should continue to receive his salary. He emphasized that payroll is under the mayor's control, highlighting the complex power dynamics between Henyard and her administration. As these legal battles unfold, Henyard's political future remains uncertain, with many questioning whether her once firm grip on power is beginning to loosen. The arrest of Lacey, a central figure in Henyard's inner circle, casts a significant shadow over her leadership. As federal investigations deepen, the outcome of Lacey's case could have profound implications for Henyard, with some speculating that Lacey might cooperate with authorities in exchange for leniency, potentially providing damaging information about the mayor. The unfolding legal saga marks a pivotal moment for Dolton's embattled leadership, as Henyard continues to face mounting pressure from both legal challenges and political opponents. As the community watches closely, the stakes for Henyard's political career have never been higher. Amid this turmoil, the village's financial struggles, leadership disputes, and legal woes intertwine, painting a picture of a village grappling with complex challenges and uncertainty. Mayor Tiffany Henyard has recently drawn significant attention for her leadership in Dolton, Illinois, particularly as financial challenges and controversies mount. In a Facebook post, Henyard called on supporters to stand by her, citing a verse from the Bible's book of Romans, "If God is for us, who can be against us?" She also accused local officials of changing election filing dates to mislead the public, urging people to run for office to bring change. However, her administration has faced intense scrutiny, especially after former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot revealed in August that Dolton's general fund was burdened with a $3.65 million deficit. One notable expense contributing to this debt was Henyard's extravagant $43,000 Amazon spending spree in a single day earlier this year. The Dolton Village Board passed a resolution requesting an FBI investigation into Henyard's spending, a move she vetoed, calling it mere political theater. Henyard further claimed that board members held secret meetings to push for the federal inquiry, while she dismissed accusations of lavish spending on dining and vacations, suggesting that her critics targeted her because she is a Black woman in power. In February, Henyard lashed out at the village board during a meeting, accusing them of spreading false narratives and attacking her because of her race. This came after Illinois State Comptroller Susana Mendoza withheld offset payments from Dolton due to Henyard's failure to submit required documentation, a decision that could have led to fines of up to $78,600 and additional financial penalties. The situation escalated when Henyard attempted to make appointments for key positions, including police chief and village attorney, during a trustee meeting, which had been halted by a judge. Residents voiced their discontent during the meeting, interrupting the mayor and eventually forcing her to leave within minutes of her arrival. Before her departure, Henyard accused the trustees of corruption and made several controversial appointments, which were later blocked by Cook County Circuit Court Judge Thaddeus Wilson. The judge ruled that Henyard had not followed proper protocol in appointing the police chief and other officials, deeming the appointees unqualified for their roles. The tension between Henyard and the trustees continued, with trustees seeking to halt expensive car leases, including one for the mayor, arguing that these expenditures were not financially feasible given Dolton's deficit. Trustees also raised concerns about Dolton's lack of a clear budget, with projected shortfalls reaching $2.8 million for the current fiscal year. As the financial crisis deepened, discussions of potential layoffs and cuts to village departments surfaced. At the same time, CNN exposed emails revealing that Police Chief Louis Lacey, a close ally of Henyard, had been secretly informing on the mayor. Lacey, a central figure in Henyard's administration, was arrested and now faces serious legal charges, including perjury and bankruptcy fraud, with each count carrying up to 5 years in prison. His indictment, unrelated to his police duties, but tied to his efforts to conceal assets and income in a lawsuit, is part of a broader federal investigation into Henyard's alleged corruption. Lacey's arrest could mark a turning point for Henyard, who has faced multiple federal subpoenas this year. His long-standing relationship with Henyard, combined with the serious nature of the charges, raises questions about whether Lacey will cooperate with investigators in exchange for a reduced sentence, potentially unraveling Henyard's grip on power. Despite the Dolton trustees placing Lacey on administrative leave, his attorney is fighting the decision, arguing that the trustees lack authority and emphasizing Lacey's right to receive his salary. The legal battle highlights the complex power dynamics within Dolton's leadership, with Lacey's fate closely tied to Henyard's political future. As the investigation unfolds, the potential for further revelations and shifts in power grows, casting a shadow over Henyard's administration and raising doubts about her ability to lead the village through its financial and political crisis.
First, though, breaking news in the south suburbs. A federal indictment just announced against the former deputy police chief of Dalton. This is Louis Lacey at a recent village board meeting. He's now charged with bankruptcy fraud. Lacey is accused of scheming to hide assets.
Decades of financial troubles, including multiple bankruptcy filings to avoid paying a settlement from a lawsuit where he was accused of taking money from a widow's life insurance payout. Recently indicted on charges of perjury and fraud, Lacey allegedly concealed income and misrepresented his marital status to evade creditors, reflecting a troubling pattern of deceit. His close ties to Henyard raised suspicions of a broader corrupt network, with Lacey reportedly aiding in extortion and misuse of police resources. His potential cooperation with investigators could unravel Henyard's administration, already facing mounting criticism. Former police chief Robert Collins has also come forward, accusing Henyard of diverting critical police resources for her personal security, which strained the force and compromised public safety as violent crimes surged. As discontent grows within Henyard's circle, Lacey's indictment marks a critical turning point that could further expose mismanagement and weaken her hold on power. Taxpayer-funded role as Thorndon Township supervisor, public records indicated that these officers accrued hundreds of overtime hours, costing Dolton's struggling taxpayers tens of thousands of dollars. This was particularly concerning for a small town like Dolton, which has a population of just over 20,000 and is already facing economic difficulties. Collins pointed out that the town often had only a handful of officers on duty during any given shift, with those officers desperately needed elsewhere to address public safety issues. Initially, the security detail for Henyard was established in 2001 following a police-involved shooting in Dalton, which led to protests and threats against the mayor. Collins acknowledged that during this period of heightened unrest, a security detail was warranted. However, as the protests waned and the threats subsided, the security detail not only remained in place, but also expanded significantly. This expansion raised concerns for Collins, who soon realized that officers were being pulled away from their essential public safety roles to handle tasks unrelated to legitimate security needs. Rather than focusing on protecting the mayor from potential threats, officers were increasingly assigned to personal errands, such as picking up and delivering items and chauffeuring Henyard to private engagements and suburban's Dolton. The misallocation of police resources became a critical issue for former Dolton Police Chief Robert Collins, as Henyard's considerable personal security demands drained the department's already limited manpower, leaving fewer officers available for street patrols and community safety. During a time when crime rates were rising, Collins grew increasingly frustrated by the strain placed on his department, as police personnel were repeatedly diverted to cater to Henyard's personal interests instead of addressing pressing public safety needs. Despite attempts to resolve the situation internally, Collins faced resistance and the problem persisted. His frustration eventually boiled over, prompting him to speak out after his dismissal. Collins' revelations shed light on deeper issues within Henyard's administration, raising serious concerns about her leadership priorities and the negative impact of diverting police resources away from essential law enforcement duties to serve the mayor's personal security needs. This disclosure exposed significant fractures within Dolton's governance and added to the mounting criticism of Henyard's leadership.
South Suburban Dolton's troubled mayor may have a new problem on her hands. Tiffany Henyard's landlord has filed an eviction notice against Henyard at her Dolton home. Now, the landlord says that Henyard owes her.
Mayor Tiffany Henyard's extensive personal security detail not only led to significant overtime costs, but also resulted in thousands of dollars in travel expenses, as Dolton police officers were frequently assigned to accompany her on out-of-town trips. This arrangement became a point of contention for former police chief Robert Collins, who grew increasingly frustrated with the mayor's escalating security demands. Collins questioned the necessity of deploying officers to protect Henyard in remote locations, where the likelihood of a legitimate threat seemed minimal. He wondered why a substantial security presence was needed in areas far removed from Dolton, where potential dangers to the mayor appeared highly unlikely. As crime in the community surged and the police department struggled with a shortage of personnel, Collins argued that the resources used to protect the mayor could have been better allocated to addressing the public safety needs of Dolton's residents. The department was already stretched thin, and diverting officers to serve Henyard's personal security interests exacerbated the problem, leaving fewer officers available to patrol high-crime areas and respond to emergencies. Collins attempted to resolve the issue internally, but his efforts were met with resistance and yielded little change. The situation became untenable, and Collins eventually reached his breaking point, leading him to speak out publicly after his dismissal from the police department. His revelations cast a harsh light on the broader mismanagement issues within Henyard's administration, particularly the questionable allocation of police resources and its detrimental impact on public safety. Collins' account raised serious concerns about Henyard's leadership priorities, suggesting that her personal interests took precedence over the safety and well-being of Dolton's residents. The use of public funds to finance the mayor's security detail, including travel and overtime expenses, became a focal point of criticism as it highlighted the growing divide between Henyard's actions and the needs of the community she was elected to serve. Moreover, Collins' testimony revealed deeper fractures within Dolton's governance as it exposed the challenges of maintaining a functional police department under the strain of misallocated resources. Henyard's demands for a personal security detail diverted officers from their core mission of protecting the public, compromising the department's ability to effectively address crime and maintain order in the community. This misallocation of resources not only weakened the police force's capacity to respond to emergencies, but also undermined the trust between the police department and Dolton's residents, who relied on officers to keep their neighborhoods safe. The strain on the department was further compounded by the town's growing crime rates, which required a stronger police presence to address. Instead, officers were reassigned to serve the mayor, creating a sense of frustration within the department and among the public. As Collins' testimony circulated, it prompted broader questions about the role of elected officials in prioritizing public safety and the appropriate use of municipal resources. His public statements also hinted at deeper issues of mismanagement and inefficiency within Henyard's administration, as the mayor's personal security detail became a symbol of the disconnect between her leadership and the needs of the community. The controversy surrounding the allocation of police resources not only exposed the internal tensions within Dolton's government, but also raised doubts about Henyard's ability to effectively manage the town's budget and prioritize public safety. Collins' decision to come forward with his concerns reflected a growing sense of disillusionment within Henyard's inner circle, as more individuals began to question the direction of her leadership. His revelations, combined with the ongoing investigations into Henyard's financial mismanagement, painted a picture of an administration that appeared more focused on personal gain than on serving the community. As Dolton continued to grapple with rising crime and financial instability, the misuse of police resources for Henyard's security detail became emblematic of the broader challenges facing the town under her leadership, raising important questions about accountability, transparency, and the future of Dalton's governance.